everybody. Welcome to another chapter of the Book of Sean. I have an amazing show for you tonight. We're going to talk about parenting, okay? It's not as easy as it looks, and the great ones make it look real easy. But for all of us who are parents, who've ever been parents, who are parents, you know it's a journey, and your kids will drive you to drinking. Yes, they will, no matter how much you love them. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience right now. I love my sons, but they will drive this bitch. Listen, and if you're not a parent yet, you need to hear this conversation, okay? You need to listen to what my dear sister Tia and I are going to talk about tonight. We're going to have a great conversation about her journey as a mom, okay? And I might even throw in a little bit of my journey as a dad, because it's a journey. And sometimes you love it, and sometimes you don't. I think that's just part of it. So stick around for that. We're going to do some Ask Dr. Sean. And of course, we're going to do some headlines. Let's do those right now. So check this one out. Steve-O, Tia, you guys listen to this. Did you guys hear about the bride in Florida and the caterer who allegedly served cannabis-laced food at the reception without telling anybody? So none of the wedding guests knew that they were being, whatever you call it, laced with cannabis food or ingesting cannabis food. And the police responded after being called to the wedding after emergency responders called them because several guests at the wedding felt sick from the alleged cannabis-laced food. And guests told police that they felt high and some felt nauseous and physically ill. And so Dania Saboba and her caterer, Jocelyn Montrese, have both been charged with tampering with food, delivery of marijuana, and are charged with culpable negligence. And here's where we pick up the story. You ready for this? So is this what we're doing at weddings now? I didn't know. I mean, is this what we're doing? We're just making the guests high? So if I go to a wedding, should I test the food? Is this what we're doing? I was so confused by this story. Like, why would you want to make people high without their permission, with no regard for what it might do to them? Somebody could have some kind of allergy or something. You could have killed somebody. I'm just saying, Steve-O, is this what we're doing? Okay? See, maybe it's just me, but I think that the most important thing that a bride should be thinking about at her wedding is not getting the guest high. that shouldn't be what the bride is focused on. Am I right about this? Are y'all with me on this? The most important thing a bride should not be thinking about is getting people high at her wedding. She should be thinking about marrying the man of her dreams. Shouldn't that be the focus? I mean, but is this what we're doing? We're so concerned about the reception that we're willing to do anything to make sure that it's lit. We're willing to give you some marijuana-laced chicken. I mean, what is going on here, people? But this is the classic mistake that most couples make. Most couples make a similar mistake. And here's the mistake that most couples make. Most couples are too concerned about the reception and the wedding than they are about the marriage. They put all that energy into making sure the reception and the wedding is all fairy tale, and you forget that the real part of this happens after all that's over. You follow what I'm saying? Because the goal of a great relationship is not to have a great wedding. Are you with me? The goal of a great relationship is to make sure that the two of you in that relationship together. You can have a piss poor wedding and a sorry reception with bad food, but if the marriage is great, give me that. Then to spend $2 million, how many celebrities have spent millions of dollars on receptions and weddings, and then the damn marriage didn't last 6 months? You follow what I'm saying? There are too many couples that don't understand that, you got to focus on the main thing and keep the main thing, because it's the main thing, people. But here's the thing I really wanted to talk about with this, because I really feel sorry for the husband, okay? And I feel sorry for the husband because he married someone who was willing to lie to everybody she knows. You didn't see that coming, did you? I feel sorry for him. Because he's legally married to somebody who was willing to lie and deceive literally all the people she's willing to lie to her mama, her grandmama, her aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters by not telling any of them that she laced the food with marijuana. I feel sorry for him because If you have deceit at the wedding, you're going to have deceit in the marriage eventually. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I pray for all the guests, and I hope everybody recovers. And to the bride that did this and all future brides who might think about doing this, there's a better way to make your reception, lit. There was a better way for her to do this. See, sometimes the first thought in your head is not the thought you should follow. You should run these thoughts by people and get some second opinions. And apparently, don't ask your caterer because she didn't know any better either. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about airplanes, okay? Apparently, the mask mandate for airplanes are over, and Tia looks happy. Tia, you look happy. And Steve-O, you look happy too. Everybody's happy that the mask mandate for the planes are over. Y'all just on the planes doing your doggone thing. But here's what I heard this weekend, and I was more excited about this. Apparently, and by the way, let me just say this real quick. If Mike Tyson had a mask on and some sunglasses, he would have never gotten to that fight because nobody would have known it was him. So I'm just saying, some of these masks might be a good thing for celebrities. But anyway, let me move on. Apparently, the FAA has decided to maintain its zero-tolerance policy for unruly passengers. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm absolutely excited to hear that this will linger after the pandemic is over. It is so important that we actually have a zero tolerance for people who are acting a fool on a plane. Okay? What do y'all think about that? I mean, do you actually think that it's okay for people to get in fights on planes and to act a fool on planes, right? But the real zero tolerance should not just be for people who fight on planes. It should be for letting drunk people on planes. You see, if you're drunk, you should not be allowed to fly. Because most of the people who get into fights on planes were drunk. And you got to be drunk to antagonize Mike Tyson. You got to be pissy drunk. So whoever this guy was, he was clearly not sober. Because nobody in their right mind is going to antagonize Mike Tyson over and over again. Bro, that's not what you do. So I'm just saying, I'm all for zero tolerance against, fights on planes, but let's also call a thing, and maybe we might need to make it the case that if you're drunk, you can't fly. You got to wait until you sober up to get up in the air. A lot of people fighting on planes, a lot of people acting crazy on planes, but when it's all said and done, we have to get back to civility. We got to get back to self-respect. We got to get back to decency and dignity. You know what I'm saying? Huh? Whatever happened to dignity? Whatever happened to I respect myself too much to look like a damn fool on this plane? Okay? We got to get back to that. We got to get back to that. And we're not performing for white people, and we're not performing for black people. It's called self-respect for a reason. It means that I want to be able to look myself in the mirror when it's all said and done and like what I see because I didn't do something that offends me. Y'all know I'm doing my good teacher. You just ain't saying nothing. So I'm all for zero tolerance on these planes, The tragedy is here, and then I'm done with this, Steve-O. The tragedy is here is that we live in a culture that rewards bad behavior. If you're not throwing a drink at somebody, if you're not punching somebody in the face, if you're not cussing somebody out, you don't get no attention in this culture. If I spent this show throwing drinks, throwing shade, gossiping about people, socking people in the eye, cussing out my guests, I'd have ratings. My ratings would be through the roof. I would literally have an Emmy by now. But we live in a culture that rewards bad behavior. The more you act a damn fool, the more eyeballs you get. And everybody thinks that that's okay. And I came to tell you that it's not okay. I ain't complaining. Let the people who do that do well. I'm happy everybody that does well, do your thing. But when it's all said and done, self-respect is important to me. My mama raised me better than that. Okay? It's important for me to be able to like me when I get to the end of my journey. And whether you like me is immaterial to me. Let's move on, people. Let's talk about Wimbledon. Tia, I don't know if you play tennis or not, or you like tennis, but I'm a tennis guy. I love basketball, and I also like tennis. And I found out this weekend that Great Britain Wimbledon, which is the major tennis tournament, that's it right there, at the All England Tennis Club, Wimbledon, they are banning Russian and Belarusian players because of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. So a great player like Daniel Medvedev, that's him on the left, one of the best players in the world, and that's Novak Djokovic there, who is not Russian, by the way. Anyway, Daniel Medvedev cannot play in Wimbledon because Wimbledon has said no Russians can play. And what do y'all think about that? I wanted to ask you that question. So do you think it's okay that Wimbledon does not allow players from Belarus and from Russia to play in Wimbledon, even though those players have no say-so and no control over what their governments happen to be doing? And unlike soccer and basketball, an individual tennis player does not represent a national team. They may come from that country, but they're not representing the country when they play in the big tournaments. So do you think it's okay that Wimbledon is saying, no, we don't want to give Russia any shine because of what it's doing in the Ukraine? They put out a statement that I won't read, but what do y'all think about that? Should individual players be accountable, responsible for what their governments do? And before you answer, remember that Russia is committing all kinds of atrocities in the Ukraine right now. Innocent men, women, and children being slaughtered every day. So if you factor that in, is it okay for Russian players not to play in Wimbledon? Now, before you answer, let me give you one more. What if countries did that to the United States of America and said because of our past atrocities, our players couldn't participate in it? I mean, how would you feel about that? I mean, it's a very tricky question, isn't it? Because you don't want to give Putin any shine, but you also don't want to punish individual players who have nothing to do with what Putin's doing. Here's my answer to it. I think individual players should be allowed to play, but I think when they get there, they need to have a good talking to. You know what I'm saying? I think that they need to have a good talking to. And what they need to say to them is this: you can come over here and represent yourself, but you can't represent Russia. You can play, but leave your flag at home. I think that's a fair way to handle it. Tell me what you think, because it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Let's move on. Here's my last one before I bring out my guest today. Let's talk about a birthday party. This is a very interesting story. A Kentucky man was awarded $450,000 in a lawsuit against his former employer after the company gave him a birthday party that he requested that they not give him because he, Mr. Kevin Burling, has an anxiety disorder. So he requested that they have no birthday party for him because he would be triggered, his anxiety would be triggered, and they gave him why are you laughing? He is going to hell. He is laughing at this. I'm not laughing. Steve-O's laughing. But he was triggered, and he had a big anxiety situation going on, and they had to pay him $450,000 for triggering him. Because here's why. He got upset because of the birthday party and became vocal, and they fired him. They fired him for being upset about a party he didn't want that triggered his anxiety disorder. It's a lot. He is really laughing at this. It turns out, by the way, that Mr. Kevin Burling sued the company, and he was awarded $450,000. And here's where I pick up the story. You ready for this? When someone tells you something that they don't want, you should probably believe them. When people tell you that they don't want something, you should believe them and let them not have the thing that they say that they don't want. We don't know people better than they know themselves. And I think sometimes we think that because we see somebody every day that we know what's good for them and that we know more than they do about themselves. Trust me, we don't. When people tell you what their limits are, you should respect what their limits are. When people tell you what they can't do, you should respect what they can't do. Because under normal conditions, a birthday party is a wonderful thing unless you have an anxiety disorder that will trigger your anxiety. And then under those conditions, it's not a good thing. So your intentions may be good, but your consequences, they also matter. And in the case of this party, whoever planned the party probably meant well, but they didn't listen to the person who most understood his own life. I think we should listen to people when they tell us what their limits are. And here's what I also think before I take this break. Anybody who will fire you for getting upset about something that hurt you should probably pay you $450,000. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'm talking to Tia. My sister's here tonight. We're going to talk about parenting and what a journey it's been for her and for all of us who are parents and for all of you Steve-O, you're not a parent yet. You should pay attention. This conversation is going to bless you, okay? I'm going to cut off 10 years of suffering and parenting off your life tonight. And your life too, because that's what I do. We're right back right after this. Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. So I found out why Steve-O was laughing, because he had a similar experience, and sometimes we laugh when things cut too close to home. All right. I'm just saying. Let's talk about parenting. T, my dear sister Tia is here tonight, and she's got a journey when it comes to that. Welcome to the show tonight, Tia. Hi, Tia.
Hey, Dr. Sean.
It's good to see you with your smiley self. You feeling good tonight?
Always. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to talk to you because you give me the opportunity really to delve into, no, let's say it better. You give me the chance to pull the veneer, the mask, the illusion of parenting and have a real honest conversation about what it's like and what it really takes. So I want to get right to it if I can. What's been your biggest challenge as a mother?
Raising these kids to be good individuals and prosperous.
Okay, say more. Take me more into what that means. Without I don't, and this entire show, don't give me none of your kids' names, because I don't want none of them contacting me on social media. So none of their names, right? And nothing too specific about any one of them. But generally speaking, when you say raising these kids, like, what's been the challenging part? Was it dating? Was it money? Was it lying? Was it, you got kids who, I don't know, what?
So basically, I mean, just raising kids. I mean, when you have kids, you have this expectation for them to, like I said, grow up, to work hard, and then they don't go in that path that you want them to go into. They actually like veer to the left. And so, it's heartbreaking.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, the challenging part has been managing your expectations alongside of their reality. So you had a certain expectation for them, and then they sort of made choices that were not in line with some of your expectations. Did I get that right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And now that they're grown, every now and then they come back and they say, hey, Mom, I need some advice about this. I need some advice about this. But if they would have just did exactly what I told them to a long time ago, they wouldn't be going through the turmoil of, the things that the challenges that they're experiencing.
Tia, hold on 1 second. Did you hear that, Steve-O? Did you hear that? Because I tell my kids the same thing, by the way. If you had just done what I told you to do, you wouldn't be having this problem right now. Woo! How many parents who are watching right now can honestly say, we go through the same thing, right? You tell your kids something, especially if your kids are grown, and then they don't listen, and then they come back to you to help you fix what's wrong. Tia, let me ask you this, because you got your foot on the vein right now. What surprised you most when you became a mom? Like, what was the thing that sort of made you go, this is not what I thought it was going to be?
Teenage years.
Talk to me about that. What about that?
It seemed like once they, before high school, they were fine. And then once they hit high school, it just seemed like they were different people. They got in trouble. They, talked back. I mean, it was just a lot of, disrespect, I guess, in some aspect.
And what did that do to you? Because I want to tell this story on two tracks. I want to tell the story of what happened, but I also want to tell the story of what happened in you. And as you watch the kids that you loved and birthed and raised and all of that sort of make these decisions and become these totally different people, because I can totally relate to what you're saying. What did that do to you as a mom? Like, how did you feel?
I mean, once again, like I said, it was heartbreaking. I mean, it just, I couldn't figure out what I did wrong. And, I was trying to search for ways to fix it, trying to look into their friends, trying to be strict, apply more discipline. You know, it gets very difficult raising teenagers. Luckily, my kids are grown now, but yeah.
Yeah, I can look at your face and really tell that on some level you still feel a lot of what you felt. Did I get that right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never imagined some of the things that they did, that they could possibly do. Like, where did it come from? How, you know, they weren't raised like that.
Now we can't do details because I'm going to get text messages from the lawyers. So are we talking about like just kid teenage crazy things, illegal things?
Both.
Both. Okay. Both. Okay. Yeah. That's another level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
another level. Yeah. I get it. Talk about that. I mean, because you know, I that's one of the things that as a father, my sons never did anything that made me have to go down to the police station to get them, right? But I know there's a lot of people watching who know exactly what it is you felt when you had to go through that. So when you get that call, and the call is that your kid, son or daughter, whoever it was, and don't tell us, is in trouble, like legal trouble. What does that do to you as a parent?
I mean, you have like a heart. When your heart hurts, your stomach hurts. You know, you always think the worst. You know, every time your kids leave the house, you just pray that they're gonna, you know, be on the right track. They're gonna do the right thing. And sometimes that doesn't always happen, you know, and it just hurts to the core.
I have several questions for you. One being this: when you're in that moment, are you angry? Like when you're in that moment, do you want to kill them? do you want to hug them, protect them? Like how do you? I'm trying to get to how you feel when you're standing there, and this is a kid that you love, but a kid that has bitterly disappointed you.
No, you feel angry. And yeah, you want to kill them, you want to choke them, you want to slap them, you want to, you know, all those things. But deep down inside, you love them. So it's kind of like, you know, what can I do? Because if I do too much, it may push them to do more, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like tug of war. You know, it's with yourself, basically. It's like, should I do this? Should I do that? Or what should I do?
Yeah. I guess I want to ask you to assess yourself. All right. I'm going to ask you to push yourself. Is there something that you could have done, looking back on it, differently? Better?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, you know, I wasn't very strict, but at points, but then I was, because I was in the military. So I kind of had that, but I didn't want to be too super strict, I guess, however you want to say it, you know. I didn't want them to hate me. So, you know, there was that kind of thing that I want to beat you, but I don't. You know, it's always that tug of war, like I said before, fighting your emotions and just trying to do the right thing and guide them in the right direction without harming them, you know. It should be a better way to discipline your children than to, you know, always go to that.
Yeah. Listen, it's very complicated, right? When you're trying to raise children and you want them to do well and you have to discipline them. I guess one of the things I want to know tonight is, what is your relationship with your children now? Is it in a good place?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they were raised well, and it just comes back to when they were going through that. Why were they going through that? What caused them to go through that? Because there was nothing I was doing that I felt, and speaking to other people around me, that would make them do that. it was just choices that they made.
But let me push you a little bit because I think it's helpful for people to have this experience that we're about to have. What's the answer? Looking back on it, what is the answer to that question? Why do you think they were acting on what they were acting on? What was motivating them to act outside of how you were raising them?
I mean, it could have been anything from influence, of their friends, puberty.
But Tia, hold on a second. I guess I'm asking this. Did you ever ask them? Did you ever talk to them about that time in their lives?
Yes.
Okay. And so when they tell you, this is why we did whatever we did, what do they say?
I don't know. They said, Mom, I don't know. I was just doing something.
What? Stephen, you
exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Okay. We need your kids on here right now. It's not you I need right now. I need these kids on here right now because I need to know. How do you not know why
That's
you?
what I said.
You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute now. I mean, especially since now that they're grown, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, listen.
I mean, I was the same way. I was like, how don't you know why you did what you did?
Yeah,
I don't get that.
Yeah, that's okay. So here's another question for you. Did you always want to be a mom? Was that always
absolutely.
Okay, and why? Why did you want to be a mom?
I came from a big family.
Okay.
And I just always wanted a bunch of kids. And God knew I didn't need a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
I think it's safe to ask this. How many did you end up having?
So I have 2, and then through marriage I have 4 more, so I have 6 total.
6 total. Okay. Well, yeah. Listen, you got quite a tribe there. You know. Yeah. You got that. I only got 2, and that was enough for me. I guess every mother out there watching right now probably wants me to ask you about how you were raised, because one of the things that I'm getting from this conversation is that you really seem to struggle with a balance between love and discipline, right? How do I love you and discipline you? How do I love you and keep you within certain bounds? How were you raised in discipline?
So, I mean, I had both my parents. My mother was the disciplinary. My father he wasn't. And so I just really grew up not, I was disciplined, but in a loving way. And that's just the way I felt like that's how I wanted to raise my children to be, but it got to the point where these children today are a lot different than I'm sure the generations before. And you have to discipline them in different ways.
Yeah.
I feel.
No, I would happen to agree with that. And to which I would also add, and I got to take this break, that I think a lot of times we come to parenting with the preconceived notion of the kind of parent we want to be. But I think it's important that you raise the kid that's in front of you, because the kid in front of you is going to dictate the kind of parent that you ought to be. And how you think you want to be as a parent may not be applicable, may not be successful with the kid that you're actually raising. Let's take a break. We got some more on this. There's a little more onion to this, and we're going to peel it back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking to Tia tonight about parenting, being a mom, raising kids, and what happens when your kids go left on you. You know what I'm saying? And if you ain't had your kid go left on you, it's because your kid ain't old enough yet. But before it's all over, they're going to go left on you at least one good time. So Tia, let's talk about this, because before we left, I mentioned that it's important that parents understand that you have to raise the kid that's in front of you and not the one that's in your mind. Which one did you, when you started out, which one were you raising? The kids in front of you or the kid in your mind?
I was raising the kid in my mind.
And you thought your kid was what in your head?
Perfect.
when in fact the child was actually what?
His own person.
That's a deep answer. That's a deep answer. Yeah. Say more, because I seem like you're tapping into something. What are you thinking and feeling when you say that?
It's just you real. I mean, when you're raising kids, like you said, you have this picture of how you want them to be.
Mm.
And as they grow, you start to see who they really are. And it's not a bad thing. It's just um, basically who they are becoming is their own person. And sometimes you have to let them become that because we have a tendency to try to control who we want them to be. And when you start controlling them is when it's kind of when they start pulling back. And, that's where the tug of war begins because, you're fighting them because you want them to be this person. But in reality, they are the person that who they are. I mean, who God created them to be.
No, listen, you said a lot. You said a lot. I don't even know if you know how much you said. Because one of the things, like I'm not great at everything. I'm not great at everything, and I don't know everything. But I was a really good father. Like I'm good at being a dad. Like I'm really good at that. And one of the things that I learned being a dad, being Caleb's and Quavadis's father, is that I learned that I had to show them that I would love them unconditionally. That even if you mess up, I'm going to love you. I'm going to care about you, embrace you, hug you, hold your hand, right? And the hardest thing for me to learn with them was, and tell me if you can agree, was how to love them fiercely and challenge them consistently. So that when they did wrong, they didn't have to wait for their mama, grandmama. I was the first person telling them, you do know that that's not going to fly in this house.
Right.
And at the same time, 5 minutes later, let's go get some ice cream and go to the movies. Because I wanted them to understand that it's balanced. You're not going to get from your dad, you're not going to get all discipline and no affection. You're not going to get all affection and no discipline. But here's my question for you. Which one did you give more of them to? Did you give them more discipline? Did you give them more affection?
I think I gave them more affection.
And what do you think that did to them?
Allowed them to get away with things that they shouldn't have. Or to test me, try me a little bit.
Yeah. So in your house, your mom was the disciplinarian and your dad was not, right?
Exactly.
Right. So I think I know the answer to this question. Which one of those two did you cuddle up with more? Like, were you a daddy's girl or a mama's girl? Which one were you?
I'm the daddy's girl.
I knew it. I knew you were a daddy's girl. Yes. That's where you learned it, right? That's where you learned that. That's where you learned affection. And then we do that with our kids, right? Because we say it worked for us, right? It worked for us. We turned out okay. And then we do it with our kids only to discover that our kids ain't us.
Exactly.
Yeah. When was the moment where you realized these kids ain't me? give me that story with no names.
It took me a while. I mean, I still struggle with that because part of me still feels like they're going to do what I originally wanted them to do.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Tia,
So.
Lord, stop. Tia, lift your hands. We go plead the blood right now. We go plead the blood. Come down right here. Holy Spirit, no. They not, Tia, no. Tia, say it with me. No.
No.
they not changing, girl. This is who they are. You know what I'm saying? But I so can relate to that feeling that a parent has, right? Like, you're going to do it. But no, they're not. No, and here's the challenge, right? Here's the challenge. The challenge is, can you love me when you realize I'm never going to be everything you want me to be?
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's your answer?
And I do believe you can.
Yeah. And what's your answer?
I can love you, and I will always love you.
Yeah.
Whether you turn out the way I wanted you to turn out, or if you end up in prison. But that's not gonna happen. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm gonna love you.
So why is it so hard to let go of the original? I'm gonna sound pejorative. The original delusion. Why is it so hard to let go of that?
I think it's more of a success thing because you want your children to be successful, and it just, sometimes it just feels like they're struggling, and I guess that's where that dream still, I guess, comes in.
Yeah. What do you pray for them?
I pray for good health, happiness, strength, and prosperity.
I was talking to my son yesterday, and my oldest son is married, and they're having typical sort of married things that go on with marriages, and I said something to him that I would say to your kids and to everybody's kids. This is what I said to him. I said, whether this works out, I want you to know that you're going to be okay. And if it doesn't work out, I want you to know that you're going to be okay. And if you are married for 60 years, I'm going to love you. And if you're married for 6 more minutes, I'm going to love you. Because all I ever wanted to do as your father was to love you. And as long as you are happy, and as long as you are healthy, and as long as you treat people the right way, I will always be proud of you, even if you fail in some area of your life. And as I said that to him, he started crying. And this is the one who doesn't cry. Like, this is the one, but I could tell his soul just needed to hear that the way I loved him when he was 6 is the way that I love him now. And I say all that to say that I think if you continue to tell your kids how much you believe in them and how much you believe in their success and how much you pray for it, you might ignite something in them and awaken something in them that they couldn't receive when they were younger, but they can receive it now. Because you'd be surprised at how you can act on a word at one stage of your life that you couldn't even hear at another stage of your life. And so my great advice to you tonight, notice how I call my advice great. My great advice to you tonight is for you to speak your hopes and dreams and love on them, because they know what they've done wrong. They know where they've gone off the rail, and they know that you know. And for you to continue to feed them your love the way you fed them their oatmeal will blow their minds, and it will teach them what unconditional love is really all about. And I think that is a level of success that's greater than any job or any bank account. For your kids to wake up and realize that they have been loved. This is great line in Toni Morrison. I think it's Song of Solomon, where one of the characters says to another of the characters, and remember that you have been loved. When you leave my house, remember that you have. That to me, like, that is the greatest moral success, to get to the end of your life and to know, I've been loved. Yeah, that's my great advice to you tonight. Oh, Tia, thank you for coming on. I got to take a break, and that's my advice to you too, all right? Love them anyway. Love them anyway. When they don't deserve it, love them anyway. And sometimes love is discipline and confrontation. Love ain't always a hug. Sometimes love is getting in your face and telling you, you're going to be great whether you want to or not. Listen, we'll be right back with Ask Dr. Sean after this. Welcome back, everybody. Parenting is never easy, right? It's never easy. Nobody said that it would be. That's why you should probably enter into it advisedly and very cautiously and lightly. Don't be rushing out to have kids because you just think you're at a certain age. Make sure you're ready for it, okay? Because, listen, once you get them, they're yours. Oh, let's do some Ask Dr. Sean. Got a video sent in by my brother Glenn. Let's take a look at it.
Hey, Dr. Sean, how you doing? It's Hurricane. I always wanted to be a comedian, and I'm thinking about doing it. My wife supports me and everything like that. My friends say I'm funny, but I'm just a little nervous about stepping out on faith, and trying to do it. I would appreciate any advice you can give me on that matter. You can help me get into the realm. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sean.
Hurricane. So here's my advice. I like his name, right? Hurricane. I love that. Listen, my advice is to do it. My advice is to do it and to do it right now. Stop thinking. If you got the support of the people that you love, preeminently your wife, if your friends already think you're funny and you already feel like an itching in your soul, a tugging in your spirit, then this is what faith is for. Faith is not for the shore. Faith is for the middle of the ocean. When you go out in the middle of the water and you're testing your capacity to swim, that's what you need. So all the sermons and all of the praise and worship and all of the praying, all of that was for this moment. Faith isn't for church. Faith won't help you in church. You don't need faith in church. Huh? You need faith when you don't know what's about to happen and you're about to step out and do something absolutely radically different, and it might shake up your whole life, expose your insecurities, right, and stretch you to the limits of your greatness. That's what you need faith for. So don't be afraid to step out on faith, because this is what faith is for. It's for these moments where you have to really do something that you've never done before. And I promise you, you won't regret it. Even if you fail, you won't regret it. Even if you fall on your face, you will not regret it, because you will go to the end of your life saying, I tried it, I did it, and whatever happened, happened, but I gave it all that I had. At least I had the courage to step out and do what was in my heart and my spirit to try to do. And so listen, do it, man. You hear me? Do it. Tell some jokes. You might actually be funny. I think I'm funny, but nobody around in this show ever laughs at my jokes. Like nobody laughs at this guy doesn't laugh at my jokes at all. Nobody. So hopefully you're far funnier than me. You know what I'm saying? And let me give you this last piece of advice, because this is important. I think when it's all said and done, you're going to be proud of what you did. And you might be on the edge of the greatest moment you ever had in your life. Here's the question you need to ask yourself. Not what if it fails, but what if I succeed? What if I become the next great comedian in this country? What if my life goes to a whole nother level? What if everything that I dreamed happens? That should be where you should put your mind and your thoughts and apply your faith. Not to the propensity or the capacity for failure, but to the probability of success. All right, good luck with that, sir. All right. Someone DM me this question. Do I have time for it? I think I do. I was raised by my single mom, who's constantly asking me for money to help pay her bills and to get her hair done, and so she can travel with her friends. I read that a little cumbersomely, but whatever. I love my mom, but I am not her personal bank. How can I tell her how I feel without hurting her feelings, or am I obligated to support her financially? All right, I got a couple of seconds on this. You are not obligated to support your mom financially unless your mom is in some dire situation, which she appears not to be, because you're paying to get hair done and for travel. So basically, you're being taken advantage of. Why do people think that the people who are related to you won't take advantage of you? Human beings are human beings. Just because you got the same blood doesn't mean that you have the same spirit. You understand that, right? See, I don't know why people always ask me, how do I not hurt my mom's feelings? Your mom is hurting your self-respect. And now you worried about her feelings? At some point you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do to redeem my self-respect? And telling your mother no is the only way to do that. And it's also the only way to get her out of this pattern of using people and manipulating people. The more you tell her yes, the more you are you're confirming and reigniting her craziness. You need to tell her no, so that she breaks the pattern and the cycle of believing that she can leverage her relationships, and that she can leverage her blood ties, and she can leverage her despair or her need or desperation to use and abuse people. You feel me? Because I ain't got no problem telling somebody no. I don't care if you are my mama or my kids. I will tell you no. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more Ask Dr. Sean right after this. Welcome back, everybody. So, someone sent me a wonderful video. Let's take a look at it right now.
Hey, Dr. Sean, this is Montel, and I need your advice. What are some red flags that I should start to look out for when it comes to choosing a relationship, or even some friends?
Great question, Montel's, and Montrell or Montel? Okay, I think I lost the name. But anyway, but great question. And I love the beard, by the way. Love the beard. I don't look good with facial hair, but I love the beard on you. Red flags. All right. If you're dealing with someone who doesn't listen, right? Red flag. Because they have not mastered the skill of being invested enough to hear what you're saying, and they're an adult and not a child. That's a red flag. Okay? If you're with someone that always has the last word, okay? Someone who always has to be right, always has to win, is competing when nobody else is competing against them, it's a red flag because they don't know how to cut it off or dial it down. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to compete with the world. It's another thing to be competing with the person you're laying next to. That's a problem. It can become exhausting after a while, okay? Another red flag. If you're with someone who has an inability to express emotion or how they feel, okay? It may not be a relationship-ending red flag because they can learn how to do that better if they're willing to, but it shows you that you're dealing with someone who does not have a wide emotional palette or a broad emotional vocabulary or is courageous enough to express the vocabulary that they may have, okay? Now, if you can't tell me you love me, if you can't, if you know what I'm saying, and check this out, if most of what you express are anger, frustration, and lust, red flag. Like if that's all you can express is anger, frustration, and lust, red flag. You're dealing with someone who is emotionally stunted, who's not sophisticated enough to understand that there's a lot in between all of those few emotions that they're able to. You want someone who has a broad palette. If you're with someone who doesn't seem very empathetic or caring, right? Red flag. Watch how they treat the people they say they care about. Watch how they talk about the people they say they care about. If these are the people that you say you care about and you talk about them and treat them like that, and you've been knowing them this long, I can only imagine what you're going to say and do for me. And don't believe that because somebody's attracted to you or because someone is sexy to you, that means that they're going to treat you radically different. No, that's not how that works. People are pretty consistent. If they treat their mama and their sister and their child a certain way, you're going to end up being treated the same way because it's a pattern. Here's some more red flags for you, okay? Because this is actually kind of fun. You taking notes? This boy over here taking notes. He's like, Dr. Sean is cooking with hot grease. All right, here's another red flag. If they don't have any friends, like if they don't have any connections, they've not been able to build any relationship, no sustainable relationships, and now they want to be connected to you forever. Well, you've had no practice at this? You've never done this before? That's a red flag. I need to know why it is you don't have any friends. I can see not having a lot of friends, because I don't have a lot of friends, but I have really good friends. And if you're dealing with someone who can't build relationships and now they want to build this relationship with you, that's a problem, all right? Anybody who makes you feel uncomfortable, anybody who threatens you physically, anybody who uses psychological, physical, or verbal violence, automatic red flag. I mean, what's bigger than a red flag? I don't know. Whatever's bigger than a red flag is that. Because anybody who will psychologically, verbally, or emotionally be violent towards you, physical violence is right around the corner. But here's my last red flag for you. You ready for this? Anybody who does not believe in anything greater than themselves. For me, that's a red flag. If your entire world is collapsible or condensable down to you, problem. Because when you get in trouble and you can't fix it and you can't heal it and you can't restore it and you can't save it, don't look to me. Because I'm just as human as you are. I need you to understand what it is to look beyond the hills, as they say. To have some sense of something bigger than you. Something that keeps you humble and keeps you grounded and keeps you hopeful. Now, I don't know, whatever that is, that can be a God, that can be a principle, that can be a Jay-Z song for all I care. But you got to have something that's bigger than you. And when they don't believe in anything greater than themselves, everything is condensable and collapsible down to them. To me, that's a red flag. Because the world is bigger than you. Anyway, someone emailed me this question. Let me do this one real quick. I divorced my husband 10 years ago. He always had a great relationship with my best friend, and she recently confessed that they started dating 4 months ago. I don't have feelings for him, but what she is doing goes against the girl code of never dating your friend's man. Should I feel betrayed or just give her my blessing? Great question, right? Listen, I don't think you have to give her your blessing because I think it is against the girl code. I'm not a girl, but there is a guy code, and this would break the guy code, would it not? This would definitely break the guy code. But I also think that you shouldn't waste your time feeling betrayed because grown folks are going to do what they're going to do, and if you don't want them, then let her have them. You move on and focus on the one that's waiting for you because you deserve to be loved and not worrying about whatever they're doing. You follow me? I wouldn't give them my blessing, and I wouldn't give them my attention all the time of day. Y'all go do what you do. Listen, people, thank you for watching. Thank you, Tia, for being here tonight. I will see you soon. Y'all be good to each other, okay? Promise me that because I love you. How about that?